I'd like to call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I just want to announce that we had an executive session on Wednesday, 6/18/2025 to talk about personnel matters and deliberation of zoning matters as well. And we also had an executive session prior to the start of this meeting to talk about those same very things again. All right, just a little note. Please be advised that due to the rescheduling of the regular June 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting to this specially rescheduled meeting as advertised in the Washington County Observer Reporter on Friday, June 20th, 2025, tonight's agenda will not include any board discussion or consideration of the following pending matters. The application of the Andreas & Sons seeking conditional use and land development plan approval for a contractor yard at 48 Woodland Road. And the application of Range Resources Appalachia LLC requesting conditional use approval for zoning ordinance 200-541 for proposed tank pad on the Zenith Management LLC property at 94 Baker Road, concerning which extensions of time have been granted to the township by both applicants through July 23rd, 2025. Are there any public discussions on items to be voted on regarding the agenda?
I have a question about correspondence. Do you have any Act 14 notifications?
Did we receive any Act 14 notifications that you know of, Stacy?
No correspondence of?
I have not seen any.
Okay. They have been listed in the past or back to just saying correspondence, so I didn't know if there was anything that came through.
I didn't specifically see anything if that answers your question.
Okay. And also, go ahead.
Let me address, and we may have, and Stacy may be unfamiliar too, we'll get a routine.
Okay.
They don't all say Act 14. We have been receiving, and you may have already seen some correspondences that have to do with the Tetra line that's in process.
I'm
I
sorry.
think it's Tetra Tech. There's a Coleman Mitchell. It's a water line extension through. Our engineer's been reviewing it.
So that is.
Yeah, I don't know that we didn't get any that they don't say Act 14, but they're in the nature of those notices, so we will let you know.
Okay, so I'll request those then.
Sure.
Electronically.
You can do that informally. We're happy.
I just advised her to just go ahead and email when she gets.
Yeah, we're happy to.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Yeah, it's nice when they're listed. That was helpful. when
Once
they were
again, I
listed
explained
then.
why they weren't listed.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then to your point, Shane, about, I understand that you've rescheduled this, and so there won't be a discussion, or you're not voting on those.
We're not voting on those. We're not voting on the
Right.
Andreas and the Range.
Okay, but will you allow public comment at the end of your business agenda?
We may entertain it. We'll make that determination as the meeting's
We
going
do
on.
allow, you are allowed
You are allowed to have public comment.
We're not, appreciate folks that, and I was gonna save this for that, yes, but residents are allowed to make comment on things that may come before the board at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Obviously, we had a public hearing, they're in deliberation, they're not gonna engage in discourse.
Oh, I know that. I'm
And they
just
would
saying for
appreciate,
public
for
comments.
time's sake, that folks not be redundant to things that are already in the transcript, if you'd be so kind.
I understand, I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
it.
public comment, you know, can allow
Certainly,
3 to
yes, we
5
do.
minutes from the residents, and so you're not
Three,
trying to
we're at
the
the
Sunshine
And
Act.
I do that every time.
Okay, it wasn't on the agenda, so I just wanted to clarify and make sure that the residents would have that opportunity should they so
Very good.
choose.
Okay, so the minutes from the May 28, 2025 super meetings were presented to the board for approval.
Make a motion to approve it. Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. I'll move that we pay the bills and the payroll for the month of June 2025.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion to pay the bills? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We need a motion to approve the departmental reports as presented.
So moved.
The motion's been moved and seconded to approve the departmental reports. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Make a motion to authorize the use of the township office for the tax collector James Triboli, Saturday, August 16th, September 20th, October 11th, November 15th, and December 13th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Evening, September 17th, 22nd, 24th, 29th, and 30th, from 4 to 6 p.m.
I second the motion to approve those hours. The motion's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. I'll move that we table to accept Cul-de-sac Line Painting LLC's proposal to perform basketball pickleball court striping at the Westland and Southview Township Parks until we get someone else that wants to throw a price in there. I have asked around other people and I was only successful in getting 2 bids. The one was ridiculous and the second one was kind of high too, so if anyone in the audience knows of anyone that does line striping and basketball court work, and you want to recommend them to the board, please do so we can maybe get a little cheaper pricing. I don't know. Does $2,200 sound like a lot of money to get line striping? No, it doesn't. Well, maybe I'm thinking it does. No, it was $2,200 on just to get like white lines on an asphalt course. That's not putting the paint on a court. It was just striping the lines
On one court?
on one court.
2 quarts.
Well, it was $2,200 a quart.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, guys. If you think that's a fair price, then after hearing what the audience says, I don't know, but
I mean, they do still have to, I mean, I know it's on lines, but they still have to measure out and do a correct layout. It could be time consuming.
Keep it legal.
2,200 sounds like a lot. Is that gonna be like 3 days' work or a half a day's work?
Yeah.
We'll double check
I
with
don't
it.
know, but-
yeah. So I just moved to table it, and we're going to try to get another price, and then we'll see. If it comes back to the same boat where no one else bids on it, well, then maybe we'll readdress it of what we got here. So I moved to table it. Is there a second to table it? The motion's been moved and second to table the line striping until next month. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal to perform the cable franchise renewal legal services.
I'll second it.
The motion's been moved and second to accept the proposal for the franchise agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries. I'll make a motion that we accept the correspondence that was presented.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
All right, we have to amend the agenda. We had a couple things come in late after the time of the posting. We had a Johnson holding tank application that came in and got the approval from the sewage council.
Let me make a motion to amend the agenda first.
Okay,
I'll make a
all right.
motion that we amend the agenda.
I'll second.
The motion's been moved and second to amend the agenda for a couple action items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. All right, the first one is the Johnson holding tank application that I mentioned. Washington County Sewage signed off on it, correct? From everybody? So I'll move that we approve the Johnson holding tank application agreement.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
And just for the, that also authorizes the chairman to execute the holding tank agreement for us as well.
Did you get that there, Stacy? Okay.
We'll get that in a minute.
All right, also, we received the correspondence from the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors urging that the Board of Supervisors write a letter in support of the state Senate and the state representatives supporting lessening the restrictions on advertising cost in newspapers. There's other ways to do it that's cheaper and more efficient. It's very expensive to advertise in the paper, so the state association agrees with that. I agree with it. I don't know if the board agrees with it, but I'm going to make a motion that we do send a letter with all the supervisors that support that to our state senator Cameron Bartolotta and our state representative Jason Ortite.
I'll second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion?
That's for any advertising?
That's
Hours, anything
that's
like
for legal notices.
Yeah, and if I could, the bill got out of the conference and it's actually before the full Senate. And it would allow municipalities to meet the legal advertising requirements by posting a notice on their website, posting on the county website, and then posting on the municipal building as we usually do. And then it's voluntary whether you wish to continue to do the Washington Observer report.
Would they have to do the township and the county, or just one or the other?
I don't have the text in front of me. It looks to me like it's probably both.
I think it's both. I think it is both, and we would probably, as a board, support all the avenues of getting the word out to people. It's just we're looking to maybe save some dollars on advertising costs. You know, God knows we could use that money in other places rather than paying the newspaper.
Do they say what bill that is?
Yes, it's hold on a second.
I know the State Association of Supervisors, since I've been attending these conferences, they've been strong proponents of this legislation for years, and it's unanimously supported by the association.
It's SB Senate Bill 194. If you actually search PSATs, P-S-A-T-S, you'll get that. I'm sure they have some on there.
Thank you.
I think I have your email. I can even forward you, if you're interested, the email that PSAT sent to me.
Okay,
Can I ask
thank
you, rurally, in this township, does everybody have access to internet and to the information that they would need access to? Because we're a fairly rural township here, like East West Finley has a
Yeah,
problem with
I
that
believe
place,
Mount
though.
Pleasant Township has pretty much access, but I know that Washington County, through the COVID relief money, that was one of their top priorities with the broadband service, to get it to residents that do not have satisfactory internet.
Yeah, but it did
Johnson
not.
Road
And I-
doesn't have it.
I can tell you as well that most, and again, you retain your discretion as a township, you can create your own local rules that put on HTC, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you, most of PSAT's country are rural communities
Yeah.
around the Commonwealth.
Just for an idea for you at Johnson Road, what I did at my home, because I didn't think my internet was the best, and I live on Jacob Road over off of Primrose Road and Gladden Road. There's your wireless providers like AT&T or Verizon. They have these boxes that you can get put in your house for about $45 a month. That's high-speed internet, and it works very well as long as you have cell phone service. So that could be an option for you. All right, now we'll open this up to public comments. Does anyone have any public comments? And like we stated earlier, please don't be redundant if it's something we heard in the proceedings that we took testimony in on the other applications, or if someone's going to repeat it again tonight. But I will give everyone a chance to say what they want to say, but just have respect for the time.
Yeah, and just to note again, but if folks want to talk about it, I'm against it, I'm for it, if you're gonna do it, these conditions, stuff like that, please don't testify, try to reopen and give new what you believe to be factual testimony, because they're constrained to consider that because we had the public.
It's public comment. You can say what you want to say in my
But
mind.
certainly,
But
given
who wants to be first?
What they say.
Mr. Orton.
Mr. Nibble, back in October, you contacted somebody about putting a fence around your pool. It's been 8 months, it's still not done.
We'll get followed up with that this week.
All right, I seen you had your hand up. Go ahead.
He was given till June. We told him to make sure it happens by June, so I'll make sure it happens.
Just state your name for the record,
Keith
please.
King, 310 Cherry Road.
Did you get that?
Has Range inquired anything about the alternative pad on Route 18 to move that operation there?
That would not be something that occurs between the time of a hearing and a decision.
I didn't know if you had any feedback.
No.
Who wants to do it next? Mr. Baker? Just state your name again for the record.
Mark Baker, 8 Walnut Road, McDonald, PA. I think we have to read, in this proposal, because I come up and read it twice here at the Township Building, I think there's a lot more details that are in there that just people aren't aware of. They're asking, it's a big ask. I don't think we can go by what they propose and their anticipated plans. I think we have to go by what is actually in the paperwork. In the paperwork, they say a 5-mile radius from the Yonkers pad. A 5-mile radius reaches clear into North Fayette, Oakdale, Sturgeon. I'm not saying they're going to use it, but if we approve it, then it's their option, and it's a 10-year plan, as I understand it. So that 5-mile radius encompasses 78.59 square miles, that map's here, and 50,259 acres. That's a lot, okay? On the traffic study, I have a paper here. I know I'm not supposed to testify or anything, but I'm just going to hand you something and you can read it at your convenience. I have a counter on my road, and it really disagrees with Range's traffic study. And I have an affidavit there how I did it. Anybody's welcome to come down, and I'll show you how it works and everything like that. There was no data for Baker Road on their traffic study of September of 22, which they're using for this here. They estimated, there's no data, so they estimated 200 vehicles per day. I put it in. I was going to do it for a couple of weeks, but this meeting was short, so.
I can see in your little short survey here that you've done, and that number is in excess of.
I don't want to comment.
Yeah.
Stop. I'd ask you if you can give that to me. If you could, sir. We can't take new testimony tonight. And
I'm not asking for testimony.
It's new data, and we don't want to be in a position to
He can read it at his
hearing's
convenience.
closed. I'd ask you to please give it to the township secretary.
He can read it at his convenience.
Again,
But
appreciate it.
anyway, so their traffic study is really far off, and school bus time isn't in right now. This is a quiet time of the year. Okay, there's no sports going on that I know of. There's nothing going on. Also in the traffic study, they claim that houses within 50 feet of the road are impacted. Anybody beyond 50 feet is not impacted. It's in the study. So they have 1 on Baker Road and 4 on Fort Cherry Road. But I think if you're 75 or 100 feet, I think you're still impacted. If you're a couple hundred feet, you're still impacted. On their truck count at 38,880, and I'm sure you got my email about how often the trucks would go. And a couple fellas, Jordan and Pat, come down to my farm last week and we talked about it. It's easy to say the 648 trucks a day, and okay, well, that's not too bad. But remember, those trucks have to come back. So now we're up to 1,296 trucks a day. So those two fellas nicely said, well, maybe we'll try to do it in 30 days, Mr. Baker. That way it won't be much of a convenience. And I said, well, that's 1,292 trucks a day, if my math is right. I'm doing it off by heart here. And they said, yeah, I know, that's a lot of trucks, but what are we going to do? I said, hold on, guys, that's 2,592 trucks a day. They all got to come back. So that is a truck a minute, taking out school bus time, 4 hours of blackout time. That's a truck a minute on Route 50, Fort Cherry Road with all these residences, and Baker Road. If they do it in 30 days, that's a truck every 30 seconds for 30 days, okay? Now on the study, it said they don't anticipate any congestion. Well, the last time they did this, there was a lot of congestion, okay? And I don't know how there couldn't be congestion turning onto Baker Road, coming down Fort Cherry, all these people pulling out of their driveways with a truck every 30 to 60 seconds. If it's 45 days, it'll be 45 seconds. I did all the math, and all this information that I presented there and here is all from Range's studies and Range's wording. All I did was the math. I did nothing new except for my traffic counter, which was my deal. But otherwise, this is all stuff we gleaned from Range, so I think we have to look at the bigger picture. And you know, because they told me last Wednesday when they were down there, 2 Wednesdays ago, oh, we don't anticipate that, we don't anticipate that. But if it's approved for a 10-year plan, we have to take that into consideration. And that being that close to the school, they call it reused water, but reused water is wastewater. And as they said at the meeting, and these fellas told me last week, they have other options. The Carnes, the Village Green, the one out at 22, there's a lot of options. So I asked him, I said, why do you need all these trucks? They said, because we need more water. I said, okay, you have a pipeline from the Yonker pad going to Cecil that I believe is 30-some thousand feet long, according to what I've read. Is that sufficient to frack and bring back the, yeah, that's sufficient, that's what we use. I said, we have a 16-inch pipe going there, how big is the pipe going across Solansky's and Collins? That's a 12-inch pipe. I said, hello, might be a different pipe, but that would eliminate this traffic. Put a 16-inch pipe there, put two 12-inch pipes there, pump it to where it's an industrial zone instead of a residential agricultural zone next to a school. I'm worried about the traffic, and I'm worried a little about the school too, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who have school children there that are going to be worried about it too. I can't think of anything else offhand. I didn't bring any notes because I didn't know there was going to be comments tonight. So I'll be short.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Anybody else?
To add to his,
Just please state your name for the record.
yep, Ray Tournay, 134 Baker Road.
And again, I want to urge people.
I'm just gonna make
Again, in
simple
fairness
comment.
to the due process of, these are all fine points that have been made in the public hearing. I am
These are new.
advising my board that allowing, you don't want to put us in a position where the applicant can accuse us of continuing the hearing without them present. So I'm asking people, please, to not be introduced, making this a venue for effectively rehashing the hearing in this matter. And I'm going to ask the chair and the board not to comment on any comments made and ask people to keep the comments brief on the topic.
Yep,
Which you
just
have the
gonna
power
point
to.
out that
Thank you, I appreciate
as Mark said, 50 feet, I live in Baker farmhouse, 72 feet, and you cannot tell me that I'm not affected, because I am. 50 feet is not enough. It's kind of ridiculous. That's my statement.
Thank you.
Can I add to that too? Because
State your name for the record, please.
Kristen Blantz, 49 Calleffy. I'm not on Baker. I'm not on Port Cherry. But I'm in that backyard. My kids are playing in that yard. All of our kids are playing in that yard. All of our kids are at the school. So think about what you're doing. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Jane Worthington, and you've heard me speak before, most of you. My concern is the children of Fort Cherry. I've always spoke on behalf of the children. I'm always going to speak on behalf. You have to think about a 10-year plan. When your children are in kindergarten and they graduate 12th grade, most of the families in this area own their own homesteads and their own homes. Those children are sitting there for 13 years. 10 of those years we are about to guarantee are going to be laden with VOCs and pollution in the air. When we bring that many trucks into one location, the VOC concentration will be very, very high. It's really up to the school board at this point to step in and protect the children. But obviously at this point, the school board has not. So we, as supervisors, as township citizens, as people in Pennsylvania, we need to say that children do not process VOCs. They're young, they're vulnerable, and our school is very, very close. Now, somewhere like the Village Green, the farms on 18, there are better staging areas, there's better traffic flow, there's not a school. We have to think about the children. We are exposing them 10 to 13 years to Tulane, Sterling, benzene particularly, I am concerned about. I live in a household with someone who has benzene exposure. You know, it's not easy. And the way they get exposed is a truck stop, a gas station, heavy smoking in your house. We don't have a truck stop next to the school for a reason. We don't have a gas station. We shouldn't have this operation. We've allowed drilling. They've moved it, you know, as far back as they could. But my estimate of where they want to put this water is about 984 feet from the property line of where our children are being educated. We don't know in the future if we're going to move the school around or build on. We don't know what's going to happen. But our situation as a community shouldn't be to fight with range or to fight with you. Our situation is to find a resolve. There's many, many, many other opportunities that our township or others could take advantage of. I think that the responsibility is, let's look at the options. We have 30 days here. Let's look at what the options are for the children that are going to spend 13 years in that school. That might be your kids, that might be your grandkids, but 13 years is a long time, and a 10-year contract is almost their entire education. That's a lot of exposure to a lot of truck traffic. You know, the roads can be repaired, you know? Things can be replaced that are destroyed. But our children, that's the future of the township and the future of Pennsylvania. I believe that we should be looking at the health and the welfare of our children before we look at anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Mr.
Ron
Hammond?
Hamby, 342 Fort Cherry. I'm concerned about the radiation. When we lived in Houston, you couldn't tell that there was a radioactive plant 1,500 feet from where we lived. They're running these trucks down. Are they monitoring each truck as they come in for radioactivity in the water? If they're bringing it out of the ground, it's going to bring it up with it.
Any other comments? Mr. Roth?
Yes. I'm back to my old comment. This will give you something to read on your vacation. It's the same deal as always was. You're new, you get it. Look at that.
Thanks. Can I have your address?
Sure. My niece is selling her property, and she had a bid on her property. They said they'd pay for it and everything, and what they want to put along is an actual small farm on a 1 acre and a half, and her sisters and her is right there. So she had to put in her deed. It cost her $1,200 to put that in there, that you can't have farm animals like I have right in my damn backyard. So I'd just like to tell you, I wish you'd go.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Anybody else?
You know, it's been 10 years on that.
Please state your name for the record.
George Kazmersky, 321 Fort Cherry Road. You know, we're all on this side of the room, on this side of the gray line, I should say. We're all on one side, okay? This whole room should be on the same side, okay? Number one. Number two, we want to show you other points of views, data, information. We only got exposed to that hearing one time. And after that hearing, we all went home and we're working together as a group, and we have more information to give you, okay? Mark Baker has all this stuff, you know what I mean? Chris and Janet, you know, Keith, I mean, Kevin, you'll even talk at another time, you know? But all joking aside, that one hearing that we had should not be, okay guys, you had your chance, it's over. We have other information that we feel, does anybody here disagree with me saying we have more information we would like to present to them? Does anybody disagree with me?
No.
We need another hearing.
Yeah.
We need another
Again,
hearing.
but
again,
we're not allowed. And again, please, can I?
Okay, sure.
Please? And again, and I just want folks to appreciate it. When the board is sitting on a matter like that, it's not a regular setting of a township meeting, okay? And there's legal rules in the rule book that we're just following, because what you don't want is the board inadvertently not having all their i's dotted and t's crossed and doing a public hearing in a manner that would allow an applicant to get a deemed approval or an approval or action. That's why I'm not, and you're not trying to shut down discussion on this topic. The reason, as you can see, I'm concerned as the township's lawyer is because we have to protect the sacrosanct. You have to pretend a little bit. It's not pretend. They call it quasi-judicial. You have to pretend these folks have robes on when you're sitting in a public hearing setting in a zoning application like that. And please don't take anything away from the hearing. And by the way, the board did listen to all of the testimony. They continue to deliberate the matter. And the fact of the matter is, the Ann Rice matter, the other matter that was pending, we didn't want to issue a decision on that this evening because of the change in schedule due to accommodations. Range Resources was never going to be on the agenda tonight because I knew, and with their approval, I had already, immediately on the heels of the hearing, procured an extension of time to give us the ability to percolate, deliberate, get my guidance from them, give them guidance, and come to a decision. We're in the jury box, so to speak, right now. That's okay. And they could have lawfully limited more than has occurred here. Okay, so that is the reason. We cannot, to make long story short, we cannot. Upon request that evening, could that hearing have been continued to another session? Yes, it could have. Was it? No, it wasn't. They took all the testimony. They felt they did take your testimony and your neighbor's testimony, Mr. Baker, and I can assure you they are taking it into consideration in their deliberations. And the comments made by even those, and again, it's not within 50, 100. Well, and anybody that definitely lives in a half a mile, and that's not a hard number for me, maybe for others. If you're in kind of, you know it when you smell it. And generally, even if you're outside that zone, they listen to the comments of all of the population. But they do have legal duties and responsibilities with how they run the courtroom, so to speak, when they're doing a public hearing, how they deliberate, how they communicate while they're deliberating, and how they issue a decision. Because it can make everybody feel happy, and I'm not talking, and whatever application may be. I represent many townships, and many times it can be very satisfying to issue, and it's not popular. Here's a denial. What's not nice is making a hasty or improper decision that's not backed up and not grounded and being reversed by a judge who tells you that not only is there an approval, there's an approval without the conditions that you could have imposed with a different kind of decision. I'm not talking about this application here. So I hope, and I don't mean to go off on a little civics lesson, but folks can appreciate the constraints we're under.
Okay, hold on there.
Can I finish?
Yeah, sorry, because I interrupted your...
That's right. No big deal. I appreciate your feedback, okay? Is there a way, I mean, the legal books, I have a daughter that's a lawyer, I mean, and she went through hell to be one, okay? I mean, everybody that lived that, they know that, okay? And there's case studies upon case study upon case study. Somewhere along the way, as our township solicitor, can you dig in there and you find if there's a way we can have a continuance on this hearing and this
I don't have to dig into that. We cannot reopen the hearing in this matter. We will issue a decision in the July time frame. We're in deliberations right now. We cannot, I don't need to open any legal books. We cannot reopen the hearing on this matter. It's closed.
How about, I'm just suggesting, what about an open town hall type of meeting where nobody testifies, but the township supervisors can hear the specialized information that each person has. There's some pollution studies, there's some school studies, there's some student studies, there's Mark's things. Why couldn't we just have coffee and cookies and the supervisors and a town hall where all we do is let the supervisors hear what we as the citizens are thinking? Because we're thinking.
I hear you. And my advice is that, with all respect, Mrs. Worthington, if it smells like a duck, it quacks, it is a duck. That
Well, we're not
that would be, please,
testifying.
if I might, in my opinion, that would be an inappropriate in the nature of a public hearing, and is not something that I would advise the board to
Then once again, we're looking for
participate. Number two, I
resolution.
do want folks also to know, and the gentleman in the front, I'm sorry,
Ron Hamby.
thank you. For general information purposes for folks, and you well know this, there are certain things, even whether it's this decision, the Antrice decision, whatever decision, jury, there are certain things, especially in the oil and gas industry, we are allowed to do zoning, and we are not, local government is constrained and preempted. You hear about preemption between states and the feds. There's also kind of preemption, again, not to get into the civics thing, between what the state's allowed to do and the DEP and the legislature and what local government's allowed to do with regard to even regulating fracking activity. We're allowed to get into where it's at, but that's in the zoning ordinance as it exists right now. We're not allowed to regulate, we're not allowed to deny, similar with in the cable and the cell towers. We're not allowed to deny those based on radioactive and those sorts of things. And in the fracking field, local government is not allowed to regulate in the technical areas of how they operate in terms of the water, the air. That is all regulated and preempted by state law and DEP regulations.
Why can't you put monitors?
We're not allowed to, that's above our pay grade, so to speak.
I worked at Worthington Steel. The local came in and said we had to put radiation monitors to monitor the trucks as they came into the mill. And we turned down a lot of trucks.
Okay, and there are regulations, again, that are state regulations pursuant to which I believe they probably did that down the road. Again, we wouldn't be allowed to deny an application based on concerns
I'm
about.
not asking you to deny the application. I'm asking you to monitor the trucks coming in to make damn sure they're not radioactive.
And the DEP does that.
Yeah, right.
They're empowered to do that. We are not
Yeah, they
empowered
don't do it.
to.
Ordinance.
Can you add conditions to their proposal? It sounds like it might be approved for what you're saying. Can you add certain conditions? Like the blackout you already added the blackout for the
Without
school buses.
regard to, and if you're familiar, and we've issued decisions on the oil pads themselves, the well pads themselves, yes, and again, I'm not gonna speak this application. Civics 101, yes, zone-wise. When you have, and again, I'm not talking about this application.
Right.
And any applications, again, Bill Warden's our planning commission chairman, he's familiar with these. When you have a use that's in your zoning table as a conditional use, okay? And again, it's not conditional and it's not subjective. It's, if you can, and sometimes you're legally required to. There are times when things can be denied, but when things are allowed on the use chart, by and large, and there's law on this, and when we issue decisions, I put that law in there to explain that. You are allowed to impose reasonable conditions designed to meet the legitimate concerns raised in a particular zoning scenario. There are, I'm not to get into the nuts and bolts, they do have some power to impose reasonable conditions on an application. We're not gonna talk about them tonight.
I know,
They're
but
gonna-
so
and they are among the deliberations that they do, and you can present on any application that the engineers and the solicitors recommend that we get as a result of. It's as a result of the very testimony that we took in that hearing, that they percolate on, deliberate on, get our feedback on, and if they believe that they are required to approve an application, not this one, then they are able to then impose reasonable conditions that they deliberate about and come up with.
So the short answer is,
Yes.
yes, they can add
Yes, they
conditions.
can.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And they do. And if you look at any of the well pad in their public record,
I've seen them, I just wanted to make sure that was.
You could anticipate similar things.
Kathy?
Okay. Let me breathe for a second here. First off, the Act 13 decision gave communities the ability, the challenge to the Act 13 decision, gave communities the ability to say where this kind of activity goes. Not how, as you just explained.
Yes, in those
that's the
zoning
DEP.
ordinances. Yes, in those
But
zoning
you
ordinances.
are incorrect to give this, to give this community the belief that you have to allow this, you have to permit it.
I never said
Let me
anything of the
finish,
sort.
let me finish, you spoke enough.
Hey, please.
Just please let me finish. I want to say something here. The Act 13 decision was challenged and succeeded in allowing the elected officials the ability to say where oil and gas goes in their community. That is why you have zoning. That is why there is zoning in a community. So they can say permitted, permitted with condition, or denied. That's a conditional use hearing. That's what that was what was before them. They are allowed to say denied. You have a different location that you could go to. This is probably not the best place to go. You've infringed upon all this community. There's a litany of reasons why you can deny it, and you can hook it to ordinances too. But the point is, you're telling everybody, and you did over and over again, that you have to allow this, that there's laws in place. You did say it's quasi-judicial. No, hold on a second. You said it was
You're
quasi-judicial.
misinterpreting what I said.
No, I'm not. You said it was quasi-judicial. That hearing was quasi-judicial, as any conditional use hearing is, and you're correct. And what that means is, a community can come and request to be a part of that hearing. Because it's a hearing, and this is the judge and jury. And so they can request to be a part of that. And you had residents that did, and you denied them.
No, we
You
did not.
denied them on an arbitrary number of distance, and yet they have information that they wanted to give to their board, and you denied them to be a part of the hearing. Even the people that you gave standing to, you didn't establish objector status and let them have the ability to call their lawyer and put on a presentation and give evidence and cross-examine. You didn't do any of that, and it's quasi-judicial. You had one meeting, one hearing. You structured it like a meeting. It was supposed to be a hearing. And sometimes hearings go month after month after month. I've been in communities where they go 8 months. You had one meeting with these people, one night, and only one night. And you told these people that are close and are going to be impacted that they didn't have a say and they didn't have standing because you have to allow this in the community. And that's wrong. And that's a disservice to this community and to these residents, these taxpayers. And you misguided them, my belief. On the other note, I want to say, in the application, and I don't know if it's in the 2025 application, but it's in this office, you have the WMGR application from Tetra Tech, and it's about 750 pages. Read it. I did. I'm a geek, okay, I read it. But you need to read it and understand it, because it shows you how large this project is. It shows you that it doesn't just stay within the 5-mile perimeter. It goes beyond that to Route 70, where they're going to hop on, the trucks are going to hop off 70 and get into our communities. It's a big project, and I want to tell you, I'm from Robinson. We're going to get a data center, and that data center is going to have more oil and gas being produced from well pads, which will then have to have the wastewater processed somewhere. You got Carnes, you got Yonkers, and they're the eyeballs, and then everything spiders out like eyelashes. If you allow this right here, this project is going to be very large, and this community is going to be very impacted. So consider, and ask for an alternative location, or just flat out deny it, and they can find it on their own. They do have alternative sites. You have the authority to deny it, and I really, really implore you to do that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please state your name for the record, Mr. Baker.
John Baker, 91 Up Road. I just like to say, you're saying there's a jury, I'm not sure who the judge is, whatever, but they have to make a decision, and I just asked them to make the decision. The Rangers lawyer from last time, he pretty much threatened, bullied, however you want to say it. He says, we're doing this out of courtesy for the citizens. in a community, but you have to prove it, you don't have a choice, or we're gonna sue you. Do the right thing, let them sue you, because it is a safety concern. Being a nuisance is one thing, but it is a safety concern on Baker Road with those trucks coming in and out. And obviously, it's not a popular decision for Range if they're threatening to sue you, but let them sue you and tie it up. And don't be bullied by him saying, if you don't do this, you don't have a choice because we're gonna sue you because they're a big company. Let it be tied up in their courts or whatever, and don't be bullied. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, because
Thank you.
Yeah, anything, the board's not made a decision, the deliberations, and I can assure you this board is not intimidated by Range Resources and make a decision.
But you won't let his
Excuse me.
traffic count be added to it.
Again, yeah, to protect the decision and the form, again, I'm not gonna comment and debate on the inaccurate comments proceeding. But I can assure you, sir.
Quickly, Mr. Kazmarski.
they were saying last time that the impact fee, this is a total different question. The impact fee was given to our community from the state of $280,000, roughly. The township manager said that, if I remember right, okay? She said about $280,000. And what I didn't hear was, what does Range give our community for the impact? Besides the, I don't know, besides the grief. What are they, like, what benefit, I mean, I'm asking the board, what benefit does Range give to our community for letting them in our community? What's their cost? And what do we get back as a fee?
Well, it is those impact fees that come.
But if you think about it, the impact fee is from the state. Everybody in this room pays the state, okay? That's not coming out of the $2 billion worth of revenue, of Range's pocket at all. It comes out of everybody's in this room. Like, what does Range pay our community for the right to be here and to cause this conflict in our community? Can I have an answer to that question, Mr. McDermott?
This is comment period. I'm sorry, that's not appropriate for a solicitor.
Okay.
Right. How much is the bond for their road repair? Because this is gonna destroy what Sherry.
It's already.
That's a state road, and I wouldn't have that answer.
Is it
No,
still,
Baker Road, they have a blanket, what's called a blanket bond on the township road.
is it 12,500 a mile still?
Another topic that lobbying state legislatures on is the amount we're allowed to do on road bonds. But yes, but that's not the extent of their obligations, that's just the extent of the collateral that we're constrained to allow based on
But isn't that the
19.
number that we're at right now, 12,500 a mile? I believe.
Yeah, so that's how much you're allowed per mile to kind of like have as collateral, say, hey, if you don't do this, this is what we have.
Is
So
that
then
a
there's also-
one-time repair?
It's replenished.
So then there's like an excess maintenance agreement that they have, so if it goes above that, and realistically, if a road gets like destroyed, it would come out of the excess maintenance agreement that, hey, you're still responsible to go. If this costs $500,000 of road repair and whatnot, they still need to go and do it due to the excess maintenance agreement. The 12,500 is just kind of something that you hold, just so you have something. But we realistically wouldn't really use that too much. We kind of go on to the excess maintenance agreement and say, hey, you're responsible for anything that you tore up on this road. So they do have that for Baker Road, in addition to all the other miscellaneous
Fort Cherry
roads
Road.
and everything.
Okay.
So Fort Cherry is a PennDOT road, so that we don't have.
You don't have it.
We don't have
Okay.
responsibility or whatever. That's
They
between them
bond
and
that
PennDOT.
separately with the state. Then
Yeah,
they
that's-
bond with the township.
Okay.
It
Would be the
Baker.
small
And
roads.
separate
Yeah,
access
but
way
the-
agreement.
I've already approached this conversation with PennDOT about getting Fort Cherry Road, and we've sent letters of support to our legislators and senators and the Department of Transportation with no avail. So what I was told is that how you residents are voicing your concerns here tonight about other issues, go on the PennDOT website, file a formal complaint out, and get your voices out there as well. So the more people that complain to them, they'll be taken into consideration. That's what I can tell you as residents. If you're worried about the road, get your complaints in on the PennDOT website complaint. State route, Mickey, what's the state route number for Cherry Road? Do you know that offhand? I thought you should.
4037, I think.
Yeah, State Route 4037, so write that down if you want to make your complaint. Because you'll need that SR number. That is part, they don't care about Fort Cherry Road name, they want to know the state route number.
I'm curious.
Did you complain to? Would you complain to?
I complained to, I believe her name was Susan Price. She is the Washington County Maintenance Manager.
I have a real short one if I could.
Sure.
Regarding the impact fees, I was corrected last time by the range girl that we don't get any impact fees from Cecil Township. This isn't a question, but it's something for you guys to consider. You ought to find out what that is. Because if our own impact fees are only roughly 9% of our budget, I can't imagine Cecil's helping us out much. So that
Well, you
might
said
go into our decision.
$1,000.
No, they take it into consideration as a formula within the area, from what I understand. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah,
It's a
it's-
formula. And I don't know how we would personally figure out what that percentage it is, but it's, it's a formula.
Ask Range. Range, I'm sure would know. They should know.
Well, they're the ones that pay it, they're gonna know.
They should know. So ask them, that might go into part of your deliberations.
All right, anything else?
Just a question.
Amanda?
Amanda King, 310 Fort Cherry Road. I just ask that as general, whether you see range, this has been quite a contentious topic throughout the years for our township, and I'm sure that our ordinances somewhere along the line have changed. And I'm sure this isn't the only ordinance that people have issues with, since I know that on the books you still have the Andreas issue on Woodland Road. I don't know how often the ordinances are looked at and altered to fit the needs that we have, but I know you're sitting there saying that, we have to let things go. This has been in play before, and, they can sue us, blah, blah, blah. But if Cecil Township's able to say, no, you're just not doing it, there's obviously a pathway to making things stronger and more conducive to what needs to be fitting for us as residents in the township. And I think the biggest issue is, as she was saying, about the school district, and that should have been #1 on everybody's playlist in the beginning, and how that can be so overlooked is neither here nor there, but we can't keep paying for the ordinances or the policies, procedures, whatever that were put in place 10, 20 years ago. There has to be a way that we can go and review this stuff and get them up to date and make it so that it's much more fitting for what we need. So I don't know when you guys do that, if you wait until it's a catastrophe for it to get done, but it should be something that's sooner rather than later, and probably needs revamped altogether.
Well, I think the board takes it very serious, our ordinances, and we do look at them from time to time. But like anybody else, there's lawyers out there looking for loopholes in every ordinance to see what they can get away with, and then sometimes, you gotta take your medicine, even though, and button them up. It's just,
And that's
That's
why I
the
feel
reality.
like you're all constantly got to change them. I just don't know how often you guys do it. I don't know your procedures.
And I can tell you that, and with our former supervisor and planning commission member, Brian Temple, when we had an outsider, they did a comprehensive plan and a comprehensive zoning update that included, and this was in 2017 and 18 when it was adopted thing.
Yeah.
And it did, and that was following years of litigation that preceded me, and the township had special counsel actually even involved, with a political litigation back and forth, the law changing back and forth and settling in. At that time, the zoning ordinance that's in place right now that allows well pads where they're at with conditional use, subject to conditions in these uses, they're about 6 years old.
And I'm just pointing out that Cecil has been able to do something that, they are our neighbors, our allies, and now we're getting penalized as a township for what they don't allow. So there has to be some way, and maybe it's time to redo that. I understand it's only been 8 years or so, but you gotta keep up. That 2 steps ahead, not 10 steps behind. So maybe it's time that we redo some of it.
well received. Thank you.
Am I correct that while we're in litigation, we're not allowed to open up our ordinances?
We're not in litigation.
I mean, but we're into a discussion of a permit, so we can't.
Oh, I mean, anything we can do, if we can do a one, we can't change, what's
because we have
in
the
place right
ordinance
now.
in place.
And by the way,
we have to
and please,
understand.
folks, and I don't want to retrench and get into just, debates about things. Folks can characterize, and the transcript says what it says with regard to whatever came out of my mouth from the hearing. Just for folks' information with regard to the zoning ordinance and whether it's a well pad, it's allowed as a conditional use, or a water tank facility such as this that happens to be this application. Yes, can folks amend the application in future, consider, hey, maybe we'll allow these here in a different place and add rules and that, but when you get an application, you have the rules in place at the time. The rules that we have in place at the time are not archaic rules. They are rules that are in place that well over, I believe, majority consensus in this community, when they were passed about 6 years ago, was there folks that were against allowing well pads in the ag district? No question. Litigation all over the state regarding that topic. We do have to allow them somewhere. Here, we are allowed to put them, and there was a lot of discourse, legislative discussion, community discussion, and I believe, and I'm not a thermometer, I believe that the probably the majority, if I had to guess, consensus right in this community is that by and large, oil and gas activities, including well pads, with the restrictions and with the stringent.
And listen, I can tell
they're
you
allowed
too,
in the ag district.
back when they drilled the first well here in Mount Pleasant Township, I was township supervisor, and we didn't know what hit us back then. Okay, we were taken and we were like, what the hell's going on here? Okay, we didn't know what the recourse was, but since that time, back in 2002, I believe it was, till today, I think we've taken the necessary steps, the boards have over time, to try to get the best ordinances that we can think of. But there's always ways that someone's going to find someone to get by, and we can only do as a board and try to address and button up those ordinances as time goes on and learn from your mistakes sometimes. So, yes, the health, the welfare, and the safety of all the citizens, that's our obligation as township supervisors.
Shane, I just have a quick comment. The ordinances that he speaks of had tank pads as the above ground storage.